Well, that's an interesting question. I think the metaphysician does that by starting with our present experience, starting with that, and then beginning to move in two directions. In one direction, to go in depth, to go down under the surface appearances and look for what is presupposed to that. And as you go down and down, you finally get, in any being that's real, you get down to the basic level, its actual existence. All the other things are things about its nature, but underlying the whole thing is its actual presence in the universe. So the metaphysician goes down, first of all, to begin to focus on that level. Now, all you have to do to do that is just to go through the suppositions. You have somebody here, your children are here, and you are here, and I can talk about you, but the presupposition of all talking about you is that you're here. You're actually present. So I can focus on that, not what kind of being you are, but your actual presence here. Then you're doing the work of metaphysics, because that's the deepest level that sustains every real being. It's also, if you move out in breadth, see, we went down in depth there, but you can also move out in breadth to the whole horizon of reality. It's also that which sums up, which is shared by all real things. So when I get down to your actual presence, that's what joins you in common with all beings, all real beings all over the whole universe. So we reach that same level of being either by going down in depth in any individual thing and then going out in breadth. What is in common between all the real things? And what is ultimately in common is that they all exist. So just by focusing on that, it's a kind of focusing. You don't have to go in some strange place or do some strange esoteric exercises. You just begin to look at the presuppositions. What is presupposed for everything else? And then you hit this radical level of existence. And that's what the metaphysician is interested in. What does it mean to be real? What are the basic attributes of any kind of a real being, insofar as it's real? What are the laws and principles that govern all beings in their interrelationship? And then finally, do we need some source of all beings? So I would say there's that. Really what is going on in the whole thing is a search always for the ultimate, a search for the ultimate roots. Metaphysics, in a sense, might be called radical thinking. In the ancient meaning of the root of radical is radix, radices, which mean the roots. So metaphysics is radical thinking, not in the sense of politics, but in the sense of what is the ultimate roots of everything. So it's radical thinking in that sense, and it's driven, what drives the whole research, the whole inquiry, is what I would put at the very basis of metaphysics, and that's the unrestricted radical dynamism of the human spirit, intellect and will, the radical dynamism of the intelligence wanting to understand all that there is to know about all that there is. That's the radical drive of and anybody who has an intelligence, human or angelic or, well, the divine already knows it, but any intelligence, because it's an intelligence ordered towards the understanding of being, because of that, it has a deep dynamism and drive to try to understand all of being with no limits. So it's that radical drive that leads on the metaphysician, always looking for ultimates where there's no further presupposition. So metaphysician is never satisfied until he gets to ultimates, where the mind is quieted. And that's why when you're going down in depth inside a being, you keep going until you hit the ultimate root, the actual existence of the thing. So when you go out in what is common, you keep going until you reach the limit, beyond which there's only non-being. So the search for being takes in the entire realm of reality, whatever is real, and the only thing beyond that, in quotes, so to speak, is non-being. So you reached an ultimate there. So it's that drive of the mind to know. Now you may ask, well, how do you know that you have such a drive of the mind? Is that just peculiar to some people? It may be a matter of temperament to be explicitly have an explicit awareness of that, but I think everybody has that drive of the mind and the will. The mind towards being as true, as knowable, as intelligible, and then the will towards being as good. I can give you a little example of how we all are really, how we have this dynamism of unrestricted search for the good, for example. You could do it in the order of intelligence, but it's more striking in the order of the good. I was some years ago in a taxi cab in New York, and this taxi driver was very talkative, and as they sometimes are. And I hate to waste time on idle conversation, so I decided to direct the conversation. So I asked him if he was happy. He said, well, he said, no, he said, I'm not happy, all kinds of problems. Well, I said, what would you need to make you happy? Well, he said, $1 million. He said, that would pay off my debts, it would solve my problems. All right, I said, now you've got it. Now what? Well, then he built himself some houses around. I said, fine, they're all built, you've got those. Now what? Well, he thought a minute, and he said, well, then he said to get himself a wife. Well, he said, fine, now you've got her. Well, he said, I might get a couple in different parts of the world, different ports, so to speak. Well, I said, fine, you've got them all now. Now what? Well, then he went on doing traveling, he went on, and then all of a sudden he stopped and looked around. I mean, I thought we were going to, get hit in traffic. But he looked around and he said, say, what's really going on here? I can't seem to get to the bottom of this. What am I really looking for after all? Absolutely magnificent. In other words, what am I? And then I started to talk. But what am I really looking? I can't seem to get to the bottom of it. What he was experiencing was the drive of the mind, where you first get hold of the whole spirit. This is the will, searching for the good. But we search for the good, then we get hold of some finite good, and we are first satisfied, we enjoy it, we explore it, then we reach the limits of it. As soon as you reach the limits, the spirit rebounds further. As soon as it recognizes it's hit a limit, it rebounds further. Then it gets the next one and explores that. As soon as it reaches the limit of that, it rebounds again further. And this rebounding goes on and on each time you reach a finite good. And then you can finally sit back and totalize the whole process. Nothing finite is ever going to satisfy me. Each time I reach the finite, I rebound further. What's further? Just as somebody inside of a prison, whenever you're inside of a limit and you know it is a limit, you always tend to rebound further. To know a limit, as Hegel said, is already to be beyond it. In intention and longing, at least. If you're inside a prison and you know it there, you're already in longing outside of it. If you don't know that you're being limited by the prison, then you're all right. As soon as you discover the limit, you rebound again. So that's an indication we have a deep dynamism that can only be satisfied finally by the unlimited horizon of all being and of all goodness. So that's the deep drive, that's the dynamo behind the whole enterprise of metaphysics. So it starts going that way and is looking for ultimates, so it goes quickly trying to find the deepest in each thing, and then the most common framework of everything, which is the whole of reality. And then you've reached the horizon of being beyond which it's not limited, because beyond it is just nothingness. So that's the drive that gets you going, and you go down in depth, and then out to the furthest horizons, and then if you need to go up, finally to explain, you might have to go up. So I tell my students, if they're going to do metaphysics, they need 2 pieces of equipment to get to the local sports store: a pair of wings and a diving suit. You need a diving suit to go down in the depths of being, and a pair of wings to take off and go to the furthest reaches, like that. So that's what the metaphysics. He's got this drive to know, and he tries to go all the way to the limits. And being is the ultimate. Beyond it is just non-being. Then you've reached an ultimate.